This is a meeting to the Warrant and Finance Committee, January 27th, 2020 at 6 p.m. The first thing on the agenda is to salute the flag.
However, we were going to have a discussion and vote on it.
Okay, let's do that. You guys want to do that first?
Yes. Well, that way we know if we're going to salute.
Start that with motion.
Yeah. Can I have a motion?
I motion that we don't do it. I don't see the need for it.
So Ginny's making a motion not to salute the flag at the beginning of the meeting. Does anybody second it?
Just in this setting, I just think we don't need that kind of formal protocol.
I'll second it, just to open up the discussion. Okay, guys, any discussion on this?
I agree to salute the flag. It only takes a minute, and I'm thankful for the country, so the least I can do is pledge my allegiance to it. That's my thing.
I can't pick one way or the other.
Now you have to pick.
I have to pick.
Make him commit, baby.
You have to pick
Make him
sides.
commit. Everybody's got to make a commitment.
I should have opened my mouth. I should have just sat here and not said that. I don't think anymore. I will vote on, I'll vote.
Tucker, just for clarification tonight, you are a voting member. Mr. Winchell apparently couldn't make it tonight, so you'll be voting in his place. So, with that being said, Tucker, what's your thoughts?
I'd like to continue saluting the flag.
Ronald?
I've said the Pledge of Allegiance ever since I was old enough to drag my butt to school. I don't have a problem if somebody doesn't want to say the pledge. However, I prefer to say the pledge. I'm done.
Okay. Kara?
I think we should say it at the beginning of the meeting.
Any more discussion?
Like I said, the other committees
I'll
don't do
vote
it.
when you just make me feel better.
No, it's not, it's sort that I want to follow. I just say, other committees don't do it, and the school does it because they get the whole student body there that they're trying to impress and educate.
We also used to say the Lord's Prayer every day at school, so,
But we're beyond that. It's just,
I think it's split
I
50-50.
mean, if I was in military uniform, I'd say absolutely. If not, I would consider this that formal of, that's all right, but, you just want to do it, I'm happy to do it. I'm just saying, I don't see the need for it. End of statement.
So the motion is not to salute the flag. All those in favor of that motion, please raise your hands. Those against that motion, please raise their hands.
Which way you voting?
It fails,
What's your vote?
4-2.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
just ask.
With that being said, shall we stand and salute the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
the only thing I'll say about it,
Hold on, Tom, hold on.
That subject's gone.
Yeah, but moving on. Virginia, this is, I tell the rest of the committee, that before we do move on, that this is a perfect example of if a committee member has a concern and she brings it forward to the committee, that I believe the committee should make that decision. This isn't a dictatorship here, and whatever we do, as far as I'm concerned, should be always be for a majority of the committee, whatever they decide. Well, thank you for bringing that.
I get a couple years older, I'm gonna need arms to go up and down.
That's true.
Once or twice during the course. meeting.
That's not on the agenda.
Now, the next thing on the agenda is, as everybody knows, the purpose originally of this meeting was to meet with the departments, to find out what their future plans might be for their departments. Just kind of give us a heads up. With that being said, the email from the selectmen is on the agenda, and that's the secretary to read the email,
Okay.
so the public gets it.
So this email was sent on the 26th at 8:17 PM from the town administrator to the Warrant and Finance Committee, and all 3 selectmen were copied. And it says, "Hello, please see the message below from the Board of Selectmen. They asked that I send it on their behalf. Thanks, Jennifer. Dear Warrant and Finance members, after careful consideration, the full Board of Selectmen have made a joint decision that the town employees will not be attending your meeting Monday evening. This will include all staff, including town hall, fire, road, and transfer station. Although we as selectmen appreciate the capital improvement information you are trying to gather, after the vote of your committee to not want to get involved, we do not feel it is appropriate for the employees to be discussing this with your committee at this time. It's also important to note that budgets, including any capital improvement projects, aren't even due to our treasurer until January 31st, 2020. After the deadline comes and goes, and we as selectmen determine what will be on the warrant, we will encourage employees to meet with you to discuss their ideas. Until that time, they have been told not to attend. We hope you will attempt to understand where we are coming from and ask you to remember, we do want to keep the lines of communication open, but only after we have reviewed the budgets first. Regards, Ed Kim David."
We had this discussion at our last meeting, and I reported back to the selectmen, excuse me, at their meeting last Wednesday. And I said the Warrant and Finance Committee voted that it wasn't they didn't feel it was their responsibility to develop a capital improvement plan. And I think I'm saying this right, where all of you were there. And they said, well, what's the purpose of having the meeting then? I said, because what we want to see is what our future expenses might be. It's not developing a plan. You know, they don't want to be involved in developing a plan. And I believe basically I left it like that, isn't that wrong?
Yes.
And looking at this, in this email, I said that we didn't want to be involved in developing a plan. I didn't say that we didn't want to be involved in the future expenses of the town meeting. And to back up just a little bit, we got when we started this back in October, we got into this, and MMA said that we had the right to call a meeting with whoever we wanted to call them with. You know what I mean? And if people didn't like the way we were operating, then they could change us at town meeting. With some of us, we're pretty sure that's how it worked anyway. I don't understand. I'll open this up to conversation and I'll be quiet. Any discussion?
Say something.
Go ahead.
I think that there's a couple things that aren't being communicated. I don't know if it's, that they're not hearing what we're saying, or what it is that they don't understand about the intent of this meeting that we want to have. I mean, my thought and opinion was there's 2 things. First of all, during budget season, it's fast and furious, and we really don't have time to get the full information and have the question and answers about the capital improvements that want to be made every year. And we also don't know what each department's plans are, and we don't get to get into that because we are always, we gotta do this, here's another revision, we gotta vote on this, and it's always just a rushed thing. And I know last year being my first year doing this, I felt like I didn't get to do right by the taxpayers in the town meeting to give them, you know, each thing, my full understanding and review before I was voting. I felt like I felt very rushed and shortchanged on that part of it. And I think that just because we don't want to, like you said, develop the plan, the capital improvement plan does have a pretty significant impact on the town meeting, you know, and the budget and the money that's being spent. And part of responsible budgeting and forecasting, you know, we need to know that, and we need to know that ahead of time and kind of be able to see the big picture. And I think it's unfortunate that just because we don't want to develop this plan as part of the Warrant and Finance Committee, that doesn't mean that the financial impact of the plan isn't part of our concern.
I'd like to make 3 remarks if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go.
First of all, and they said, not only could we have a meeting, but we could set our agenda. That's important today. We set our agenda in accordance with MMA's ruling in my terms. It did ask voluntarily the officers of the town to come, and they didn't have to. There was no insistence, but we requested they come and give us some feedback on what they were planning for the upcoming year. That was the purpose of the meeting, as I recall.
Yeah.
Okay? Secondly, this process has been extremely rushed over the past 5 years that I've been on this. Going back 10, 15 years, it was not rushed because we would start meeting in January, right after the new year came, and we'd be meeting with people regularly. We set our agenda and we asked people to come here. We had enough time to do the budgets. But this business of being crunched is, if we have to wait for the selectmen and then talk about it, it doesn't get done. And a lot of things that don't get done are questions that come from this board, originate here, and never get answered because of a schedule set by the selectmen. I hesitate to say that that's purposeful, but I have 3 or 4 questions that I have asked and I've never gotten answers to because the time expired, okay, to resolve those issues. There is not enough time to resolve issues that come up during the hearing process. Thirdly, we have before us apparently a decision made by 3 members of the select board, signed by presumably 3 members of the select board, taking action instructing, not employees, officers of the town, okay, officers of the town to not attend our meeting. My understanding is, I don't know this for a fact, but that decision was made, I do not know where. In order for that decision to have any legal standing or any merit, it must be done in a public meeting and at a vote of the board discussion at a regular scheduled selectmen's meeting. Otherwise, it has no standing. That's all I'm going to say right now.
I can tell you where I was at, that there was no vote to take this action until last selectmen's meeting. Anybody else got something?
Well, I'm not quite sure under Title
Tell me you
I.
want to move that over.
Under Title I, I think it's 402, but it's part of the Freedom of Access Act of Maine. It's not the Freedom of Information Act. But it says in there where it is a member of the Board of Selectmen or a board meets together to make any kind of town decision, it's a public proceeding. And it has to have records done. It either has to have minutes, a video, or some kind of record of being taken.
And notice also, public notice.
Yeah. But I mean, it's any time you have a majority or a quorum or a meeting, that has to be, it's considered a public proceeding.
So, well, I'll wait till everybody's had a chance.
I got a couple other things.
Go ahead.
Underneath there, it says it's a meeting of the full board, after consideration of the full board. And then it goes to say they made a joint decision. Joint with who? Who else was making the decision? You don't make a joint decision by yourself.
No, it's a board that has to act as a board, you're right, they can't have a joint decision. They may all agree, but there has to be a vote, and then that is the board decision.
And then it talks about budgets and the capital. We weren't interested in budgets or capital. What we were looking for, what the future holds down the line, you know. I'm the liaison with the dump up there. I mean, recycling is going by the books. I mean, the glass now is not being recycled. It goes into the demo hopper. I mean, down the line, I don't know where we're gonna be with and the meetings that he goes to. Maybe he can inform us what's coming down the line on where we're gonna do with all this rubbish that we generate. I mean, that's what I thought this meeting was for, was to get some idea down there, and I don't know why they're having a problem with it. I don't know what harm they think this is gonna do to the town. I mean, how can this, having a meeting with these people, harm the town?
Tucker, you have anything you want to add?
I think we're still hung up on the capital improvement committee. And to me, this is two separate intentions for this meeting. I was looking forward to having this meeting and listening to the different officers, kind of give an idea to the townspeople as well as to us where they're heading in the next few years. We're really asking for a whole lot, but it's really nice to be able to make an informed decision. If we're talking about money and expenses, if all I said before, we're an advisory committee.
Yep.
It's definitely helpful to be able to advise if we know where they're coming from.
Go ahead.
I am of the same perception as you. I thought capital improvement committee, the creation of it was one subject matter. Dennis's idea of having something to facilitate communications, which is a chat session, if you will, with department heads, to me was a totally different subject. I think Warrant and Finance, as well as other committees in the town, cannot serve people of this town as well as they could if we had better communications. You know, maybe half the things that get said in these informal sessions or formal sessions, whichever way people want to go, you could probably go home that night and forget half of it. But if you pick up 2 or 3 points that might make a difference to the committee you're on or to the town as a whole, then it's worth having these chats. It's what's communication. If communication doesn't flow in all directions, committees in this town are not serving these people to the extent that they can and should be.
Well, you have something to add?
Oh, I got lots to add.
Well, go ahead.
First of all, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I know the warrant finance ordinance, forward, backward, inside and out. There is nothing in there which designates the warrant finance committee to prepare or solicit a capital improvement plan, whatever. If you want the warrant finance, and I'm directing this to the selectmen and the town, if you want the warrant finance committee to develop a capital improvement plan or whatever you want to call it, then you must change the ordinance, which means it should be on the warrant to change it, because that's the way it has to be done from what I understand. The selectmen, and I'm going to open this can of worms up, the selectmen were not happy with Warrant Finance's decision to not agree to move forward with the capital improvement committee duties. I fully understand that. They think that we should have taken that on. We didn't agree, and I don't agree, given the way the ordinance is written. If you want us to do it, change the ordinance. Second thing, communication. It was my understanding that all town business was to be conducted on the town server. I got nothing from the web server. I tried to access the web server today, twice, and all I got back was invalid. Hard to pull emails that are sent to you, if they have been sent to you, and I can see that I was part of the addee list by looking at emails that other individuals brought in with them. But if everybody can't access the requirement, that's a problem. Secondly, we're not supposed to be doing town business on open individual accounts. Don't send me an email to my personal email address, because that's not the way it's supposed to be done. As far as us having this meeting, it was my understanding that this was an informational type meeting, not necessarily to gather capital improvement plans, whatever. It would have been nice to just sit down and talk with everybody and just see where everybody was going. Personally, I'm not too far off from resigning, and I'm sure that will make some people very happy. That being said,
Well, going around the table here, maybe I misspoke. I said the Warrant and Finance Committee, I believe this is what I said, was not interested in developing a capital improvement plan.
you are correct.
Mr. Winthrop said, what's the difference in what you're doing in that? I said, because all we're doing is sitting down in a room and gathering information. We're not developing a plan. It was just everybody talking. And every department head, every committee relayed to me that it was a very positive thing they felt for the town. And it's kind of like Arnie said, what could be the negative impact on this community? Everybody's sitting down in a room and having a discussion. And I told all these different people that this was not a meeting for a debate. This was basically a one-side meeting for us to sit here and listen to what they had to say. We'd debate the stuff through the budget process. Whether you agree with the road commissioner, what he sees we need for the future or not, was irrelevant. This is what we hired these people to do, to say what they believe we need to do. Whether it's the fire chief or the road commissioners or the rep, everybody. I knew this was coming. I hoped it wouldn't. I mean, this is the second time that they've tried to covertly stop a meeting. One of the things they're saying is that these town employees work for the selectmen, and they've got the right to tell them that they can't come and talk to us. I'm not a lawyer. I do know that the auditor, that they said we need to listen to, said that, we need some kind of plan of action for the future of the town. Financial plan. I mean, the auditor said that. That's one of the things that all towns should be doing. I don't know where to go. I don't know what, I mean, I've worked, and I think this whole committee has, I'm not talking about just me, I've been very respectful towards the selectmen through this process. All year since we started, I've been nothing but respectful. And this committee's been respectful. And I think we have a great committee here. Everybody's allowed to give their opinion, whether you agree with it or whether you don't, it's totally irrelevant. And I like the way this is being run. This is all agreed how we're gonna run it. And now I'm gonna counter just a little bit what Ron was saying. He says in the ordinance, and he's right, what we must do. We must act on a warrant. And whatever else he was saying, I'm sorry, Ron. I did listen to everything, but you get the gist. And he's right. But it does not say what we can't do. Okay? If we have to do this, it's just like town meeting. If the law says you have to do this, then you have to do this. Or if the law says you can't do this, then you can't do this. But if the law doesn't say what you can't do, again, I'll go back to local rule. In the state of Maine, the town meeting makes the decisions. And this committee, and as long as I've ever been on it, and as long as I ever will be on it, I work the town meeting. I do not work for the selectmen. My obligation is to the town meeting, because the town meeting is one that put all of us on here. I don't work for the road department. I have an obligation to the town meeting. And myself personally, I was talking to one of the department heads today, and there's a huge expenses they're looking at to come up this coming year. Be nice to know about that in advance and ask me questions so we get into the budget process. You'll have the questions and you'll have the answers so we can make an educated decision on whether we do it or not, or whether we support it or not. And is it necessary right now when things like that, and we could have these conversations before we get all ready to the budget process. And that was the whole purpose of this. And I don't know if it's because of who I am, but every turn that I go to the selectmen with that we talk about, it's always fought against it. And I mean, and I've got to, I talked to Ed tonight, being the liaison, and he said, Dennis, he says, I have a meeting in Rollinsford. I'm in charge of the transfer station down there. We're having a public hearing on the ordinance that they're working on, and he had to be there. In fact, Ed, when I talked to him, he was in Rollinsford still. And I understand that. But there's more than one selectman. As anybody that's been a selectman knows, you can't be at every meeting that goes on, but between the three of you, there should be one. And I think we've only had him here at one. And then, so we can't have this discussion with the selectmen. You know, so how do you move past this? I've got no idea. I'm not gonna, myself personally, I'm not gonna push this issue because what do you do if they're telling them, the people that they're paying, they can't come here? And then you've got the department that says, geez, I think we can still come, but I don't know if I want to get in the middle of this. And so I said, no, don't come. It's not worth what the possible ramifications for one department to come here and answer questions, the ramifications later. To me, it could be who knows what. And they ask them, what they can do? I don't know what they can do. It isn't worth it. And I just have one more thing to say, and I promise I won't say more. The only thing I can see is if the Warrant Finance Committee comes to the next selectmen meeting, and instead of me really saying anything, that the committee gets up and says stuff, and give your opinion, and maybe some of this is stop, whether it's when it's just Dennis Long trying to speak on the behalf of the committee, which is the way it should be, once the committee tells him what they want him to say. I think it's a personal agenda. That's my personal opinion. Go.
I've taken notes on everybody's points you've made, and I don't mind drafting it into a summary and attending the next meeting and reading it to the selectmen, asking to be on the agenda and reading what the key points that this committee has to them. I agree that, as many of you that could possibly be present for that, the better. I don't think this is something that should just be let go and ignored. Having dealt with this on another town committee, and the ultimate end result was my resignation. I don't think that, like when Rollins said, I'm about ready to resign. I think that that's unfortunate, and I think that this is a plague in this town, that our committees are not allowed to do the things that they've been elected to do, or appointed. I think that, like the purpose of this meeting, forecasting is one of the financial advisor's biggest responsibility, and that is that is what this committee is. We are the financial advisors to the townspeople, and they're not allowing us to do our job that we were elected, not appointed, elected to do. And so that was what I would like to do, and I know I'm not a voting member tonight, so I can't make a motion to do so. However, I think that it's important that even if nothing changes, these departments are being held hostage by the board, by them not letting them come and have open lines of communication. Everything that, the email, where is the email? When the email says, we ask you to remember, we do want to keep the lines of communication open. I don't think there's any clearer example of open communication being closed. They will not allow open communication between this committee and the departments, and it's not fair. So.
Make a motion.
Can I make one further?
I would like to also thank you. Go ahead.
Go ahead, the chief of the law. Hold that thought.
I got it.
I think the last meeting that we had, we were all in agreement that we think it was appropriate for Warrant and Finance as a committee to also be essentially replicated and form a task of a capital improvement. My understanding is that Warrant and Finance is an oversight function. If we're performing oversight by screening budgets and asking questions and gathering information to pass on to the board of selectmen, we can't do it and sit here and then move the chairs around and sit down there and do capital improvement on the other side of the coin. It's totally illogical.
I agree. This is the issue we decided on, the basis for our decision was, I just wanted to amend your comments, bring it to the audience for this meeting, that the decision was made because we thought, being a Warrant and Finance Committee advisory to the body, would be in conflict with being committee advocating for capital improvements.
Yes.
That's a conflict, and that's the basis of the decision.
And with that, Tom, my agenda, when I went to the Warrant Finance Selectmen's meeting, was just give the decision of the Warrant Finance Committee and leave it at that. It didn't really work out quite that way. I didn't explain other than what I said earlier, that we weren't going to do a capital improvement plan. And maybe I could have explained it better at the meeting, I have no idea, but maybe it just needs to be readdressed, like Carol said this week.
Recurrent problem here is, in this whole business of communication, is that nobody on that board asks why. You don't get why, you get a decision. There's no why, so there's no discussion. All there is this is our decision. And that's recurring, and that stifles communication. Right there. Nobody asks why you decided that, or why you did this, or why you said, ask that.
Mr. Winchell did ask why we're still having a meeting. And I said, because we want to know what the financial impact is for the future of the town. But with that being said, we're going to move along. We've been on this quite a while, and unless somebody's opposed. And Roland, you had a motion.
I make a motion that Carol put together the PowerPoints of our discussion and present it to the Board of Selectmen at next week's, or no, at this week's meeting, which is 2 days, 2 days from now.
I'll second it.
That's the end of my motion.
I second it. I think it's a real good suggestion, Carol.
So would you read back the motion, Carol, please?
Motion is to have, I'm gonna put secretary instead of my name, if that's
Yeah.
okay. Secretary, compile the points of our discussion to present at the next Board of Selectmen meeting.
To be read,
To be
read
read.
to the board.
To the board at the next regular meeting, at their next regular.
Although I would suggest that we probably should have a vote on what those minutes are before that.
Time.
Well, if we hold off a week,
I don't want to hold off on that more. I really, myself personally, I really don't want to hold off a week. I mean, Carol wrote the points, and if they're not completely accurate, then we'll beat her up later over it.
then let's do this. How about sending us an email copy and we can affirm?
Yeah, if there's something that you see that you don't like, you
Or
can
we
speak to me
record
before the meeting.
affirmation. You can say, all the members of the committee then have read this and agreed that this is our consensus. It's important that it be a consensus.
When's the Friday meetings?
It's Wednesday,
Wednesday, 6 p.m.
so I'm not sure of the date.
Well, it's 2 days from today.
Today's the 27th, so it'll be the 29th.
29.
And I also would suggest that other members, although they may not agree with me, that we should not offer individually additional comments to those minutes once they're read. That's it.
So,
Agreed.
it's fine.
We should act as a board.
And I always think that it's a draft, that they have not been voted on, but that there have been consensus that's been distributed and reviewed.
Okay.
I'd also like to say that I'd like to see somebody else's face at the Board of Selectmen's meeting other than me and Dennis. And Carol has been there a few times. But, you know, if we're trying to make a point, then, you know, it would be probably, it may make absolutely no difference, but it probably would be beneficial if, you know, a few more members were there. I go to every meeting. I've only missed, I don't know, a handful probably in 6 years.
Okay,
I will make an effort to be there. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
my schedule is.
okay.
So it's 2 days from now.
Yeah, that's,
All in favor for
Like,
the
it's-
secretary to do this? It's unanimous.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Karen. Yes.
And, the next thing is, approval of the minutes of the last meeting. We don't have them.
Well, I have, everybody has read them, I believe. I forgot to print them.
Okay,
So,
that's fine. We can
sorry.
table it. We can table it
I
again.
haven't seen,
Okay, yes,
Yeah,
send me, you know.
yeah, I will.
we can table them again. It's not that big a deal.
I was gonna say, is it easier for you all, just to kind of back up, I'm sorry. Is it easier for you if we put copies in the mailbox instead of email them and put copies in the mailbox, printouts? To be picked up, you don't want a mailbox, do you want a mail to you?
This mailbox out here, we're
No,
talking.
just email.
To you personally? Everybody
Okay.
else is good with the minutes coming through the town email, except for Rollin couldn't get in. Did you see that?
Rollin and I.
You can't get in either, right, Rollin?
I have not been able to access my town account, but I will make every effort to change that or get that fixed in the next day or so.
There is something going on with it. Jennifer and I were able to get in through Chrome, Edge, Internet Explorer. They don't work. Firefox does not work. It had to be Chrome. For me, I don't know on her computer, but for my computer, I have to use Chrome. The app on my phone, the mail app, will not work, so I can't check it on my phone anymore. So there is something going on, whether a security setting got changed, the firewall got changed, something got changed, or, I know at work, Microsoft runs updates and changes happen in the background that impact things that IT people don't necessarily realize are going to happen. So I think that I will send an email to Jennifer and ask her to reach out to Tedo and just ask him to look at the Windows updates and so on and so forth and see why it isn't working, because it always worked fine last year. I never had any problems with it.
I developed the problem, so I started having the problem last year. And when I regularly update my computer for security reasons, and I suspect strongly that what's happened here is that Windows has made a change, okay? And this program hasn't caught up with that.
I did speak to Jennifer after our last meeting, and she asked if anybody that has any issues to please contact her, and she tried to fix them. So if anybody is still having problems please contact Jennifer. And to make it formal, I guess we're going to postpone the approval of the minutes.
Make a motion with those approval minutes.
Second.
All in favor? The next thing on the agenda is the school. I went to the school meeting last week. They went over 3 budget items. The bus contract, which has already been negotiated, so it is what it is. The school nutrition program. It did say that Holly, which is a food service director, said that at some point we're gonna have to look back at some of the equipment in the kitchen. We're starting to do a lot more repairs on it. So, the stuff is all at least 30 years old. So it only makes sense that it's time we're gonna have to start doing some replacing of some of that stuff. And the other thing they did was the maintenance budget. The only thing that stood out really on the maintenance budget, which doesn't really stand out, is the same thing that Andy was saying, that we're gonna need to start looking at replacing some of the train units, which are the air handler heaters in the classrooms. Once again, most of them were 30 years old, and some of them were 40 years old. So it just makes sense. And he had said that what his plan is, if it works out, that he'd like to replace, I think he said 2 a year. And considering I'm just using a number here, 16 or 18 of them in the school, there's quite a few years before you get through them all. And some of them could easily be over 40 years old.
20-year-olders would be that, is that the first edition?
Those are the,
No, they probably are 30 years old, aren't they?
no, they're 40 years old.
First edition?
78, 79.
Yeah, that's about right.
So if you go with 80, the easy math, Tom, they're 40 years old. You know, so what I'm saying is, anything that they brought up so far in that is more than reasonable, you know. I would ask, where I was the only one there, they had chairs for whoever wanted to come to the meeting, and some books. They are going to, or they have, Kim is sending out the budget information that they presented via email. And she's gonna do it the next day so that people could have the information. And the way it's laid out is pretty, it explains itself pretty well. But we also had a discussion on the date that we're gonna make our recommendations. We had that conversation at our last meeting, and I went and I talked to Jennifer before I went to the school board to make sure our date worked with the date that the selectmen would like to have town meeting, or the school board, whoever, the agreement they had anyway. And Monday the 21st or whatever it was, 22nd, kind of worked out all right. The school board was a little nervous about it.
What month is that?
That's in March, I'm sorry. Because on their schedule, they plan on voting on the school budget on the 12th of March. And that's why we set our days, because we wanted, some members said they wanted 7 days to look at the warrant. John Ross stated that he's hoping, unless something jumps up at him, he's hoping they'll be able to vote on their budget March 5th. So that would give us 2 weeks. Yeah,
What's the date?
I do.
the school thing was April 4th, April 8th.
I just want to know the date that we're talking exactly. It's a Monday month in March.
This is March, right?
All the town meetings in April.
No, our meeting to vote on recommendation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to make sure I get everything right.
Didn't know.
There it is, okay. We're looking at March. Okay, what are the dates?
The school committee is voting on March 5th. What, is that a Thursday?
March 5th is a Thursday,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
They're hoping to be done by the 5th.
Right.
So not the 6th, not the 9th,
The 9th is Monday and then the 16th.
the 16th. So that's when we would be meeting. The 16th, and that is 7 days.
That's on a Wednesday.
That's more than 7 days, but they have to have time to, get us the warrant and they vote. So
Right. And Kim said that,
if they had us the warrant.
they send it up. They'll send it up to Jen the next day, and then Jen does whatever she has to do, and then she'll just send it back to them to see if everything lines up with what they're saying. And, so that'll be on Friday.
Right. And if we got it by Monday, if we get it the next Monday is the 16th.
Yeah,
If they got it by the 16th, we have that week that we are requesting. And we might want to meet before that if we have issues.
So we would get it on the 10th, I'm sorry, we would get it on Monday the 10th, let's say.
Well, Monday, first of all, Monday is not the 10th.
What is it?
The Monday is they're going to do it on the 5th, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. The
Hopefully.
following Monday is the 9th.
So that's when we would get it.
Yes, that would be our.
And on this Acton School Department timeline, they have a date down here, March 12th.
Yes,
School committee deliberates with Warrant and Finance.
yes, that was,
Is that been changed?
yes.
That would
The
change.
deliberations with Warrant and Finance, where we're not gonna have a pre-meeting. You know what I mean? What we used to do, Virginia, is have a meeting before they voted on their budget. And what John Ross has said, and this is why he thinks it's important, and I'm gonna use Arnie for an example. He said last year, Arnie came up with some really good questions, but it was after they had voted on their budget. And he would like to be able to have the question and answer the questions as we move through the budget, so that when it's all done, the Warrant and Finance Committee, when they go to vote on this, the Warrant and Finance Committee has all their questions answered. And I told him I thought that was more than reasonable.
That week gives us the time to get those questions in order.
If they can do it on the 5th, okay? Now, if it's the 12th,
We'll whole schedule that, that's all.
then,
And we want to schedule that a week.
what the heck did I have?
So right now, Monday the 9th is the hope that we would have the warrant with the school committee's recommendations, which would put our meeting on Monday, March 16th for voting. If it goes back a week, then we would just add a week to those dates.
Yeah, slide everything back, I mean,
Which
the
would
warrant
be-
does not have to be voted on until June 30th.
Right, so if you're adding a week onto the
Voted on at
16th,
the
Carol,
following
Yeah.
regular
the
meeting.
23rd.
be the 23rd.
There's no reason to have it, no reason to have it separate. There was a reason to have it separate years ago.
So what you're saying, Tom, is that they're not gonna have a town meeting where we vote on the school budget first, and then have the regular annual town meeting at the end of June?
I can't say that. The selectmen have total.
Because
authority for that.
I pretty much guarantee you that the school budget is going to get voted on before the annual town meeting.
I think that's probably the case,
There's no doubt in my
but
mind.
there's no need for it.
I'm not arguing that point at all.
Well, my goal here is to try to work with the school committee and make it all fit as good as possible, and also be respectful of what the Warrant and Finance Committee wants.
That's right.
Because we have to, as you know, in order for the warrant to be proposed to the town meeting, where we have a Warrant and Finance Committee, it has to be posted on the warrant, what our recommendations are.
Historically, the two meetings were held together sometime after 2006. They went to this new process, and actually, the law would stipulate that you have to have a town meeting 90 days before you introduce a change, a significant change to the town meeting process, either in wording or whatever. But that never occurred. There have been a number of changes that were made, and then where there's been no compliance with law. The law requires it.
John Ross is trying to make an attempt, I want to say this too, when they're going through this process, to try to keep the meetings an hour or less, so that we don't have to sit there and which worked out very nicely the other night, you know what I mean? So you don't have to give up a whole night,
You can do that the rest of the meeting.
so it's working out pretty good.
They do it good.
Yeah, they really do, they really do. But they, like I said, I would encourage, on our part, a little more participation.
Sorry, I missed it.
No, that's fine.
When's the next one, do you know?
Thursday.
This Thursday.
And they did ask me if I called anybody to remind them, and I said, no.
Well, here's your reminder.
Yeah, here's your reminder, and in fact, it's.
5 p.m.?
Yeah, 5 p.m. And I realize it's hard on people, we are volunteering, but,
Just know that I won't be attending one probably until the night they vote, because that 5 p.m. doesn't work in the works.
oh, it is what it is, you know what I mean?
Thursday, you got four branch. It's chaos.
Yeah, but, like I said, it's a very positive meeting and the conversation with the school committee was very good. Yeah. That's all I have.
I don't know if I'm going to the next school room until the day before.
Sure.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You don't want
Make a motion to adjourn?
Great.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I just need to know when our next meeting is. When does this committee get together again?
It would be
The
the.
March 9th?
No,
No, maybe before that, but it's going to be coming. We don't have a meeting scheduled now?
we don't have a meeting now.
We don't have a budget timeline yet, or do we?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we have, before we get into the deep weeds with all these departments and the budgets, do we have time to, at one of our meetings, go over the policies? and
Oh, please,
procedures?
I'm sorry,
Draft-
Virginia,
No, no,
yes.
that's
No, we
what I
can do it.
did. Tom
We
drafted
stand
up
past that unless-
some notes in December from what you can see in policies, procedures for this committee. I had jotted some down, in, longhand, so I have those, and, we just haven't got back to the topic and maybe.
Oh, I agree.
Let's schedule a meeting for next week, this time. We also may have some feedback from the board.
We put that on the agenda too.
I would second that motion.
Oh,
To have a meeting next week.
Yes.
we can pick up on those
This time.
procedures that we talked about.
So,
And it does take a little time. to
what's the
see.
date?
Second of February.
Versus Friday. What's the 3rd? February 3rd?
Oh, that's town meeting.
For what?
Those two alone,
Oh.
well, we can do it.
That's right here.
We can do it 2 weeks first.
So the 10th, February 10th?
I'll amend my motion. If
6
the
p.m.
warehouse will
Draw a second.
Withdrawn.
So what, the 10th?
Yes, so Tom has a, motion is to have a meeting on February 10th at 6 p.m. to work on policies and review the results of the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Second.
Policies and procedures.
This is February 10th, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
At 6 o'clock.
There it is.
Always 6 o'clock.
That's right, hopefully we can always keep them the same, it's gonna be so much easier on everybody.
Certainly is essential.
Like this meeting today, you're trying to keep everybody, I guess, happy and make sure everybody can make it. Between all the departments and the committee and stuff, and get everything all lined up, and it's like, oh, that took a while, we're good now, and then we're not good anymore.
And I think with the school, they just stay late after school, so that's what they do,
Sure.
5 o'clock.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. So, all in favor? It's unanimous. Any other discussion?
Thanks for the effort.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Thank you, Caitlin.